All right, guys, here we go. It is Wednesday, January the 13th. It is hump day. And my buddy over here is going to help me teach you guys about GDP per capita and productivity. So at first we reviewed what does GDP stand for from yesterday. GDP stands for gross domestic product. And what GDP is, gross domestic product, is the total amount of products and services that a country makes and offers, and the money that they make off of those goods and services per year. So all the cell phones that we make, all the cars we make, all the clothes we make, all the services we offer like CenturyLink, SuddenLink, okay, from restaurants, services. Okay, just the total amount of products and services that a country produces each year. After we reviewed, we went into the notes for GDP per capita. So GDP per capita is very similar to regular GDP. The only difference is that you take a country's total productivity. So let's say that's $100,000, and then you divide that 100,000 by whatever their population is. And that'll give you how much each person is producing. And this picture right here just shows you, like right here for North America, the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Okay, each person is making roughly $52,000 a year, which is great. So the average person in those three countries is making about $52,000 a year, period. I think that's pretty good. So it's just the total amount of products and services produced in a country per person. And remember, it's based on a country's population. So we'll do an example. If the total vehicle production in the United States in 2020, so last year, if we made 10 million vehicles, and then 330 million people made 10 million vehicles, that's not a lot per person. And we can see that because in the United States, we don't have a lot of vehicle production anymore. We're not producing a lot of vehicles in our country. All those manufacturing plants have moved. A lot of them have moved to Mexico. So all we would do to figure that out is just take the vehicle production, which was 10 million, and we'll just leave off all the zeros, divided by 330 million people. And that gave us 0.03. So each person in the United States makes about 3% of a car per year. That's horrible. 3% of a car, 3%, three pennies, 3% of a car. That's so bad. It's terrible. All right, the leading countries that are producing the most cars per person are Slovakia, Czech Republic, South Korea, Japan, Germany, Canada. And you see this is a little old. This is 7 years old. So you see even 7 years ago, we were lower on that list. But now we're a lot lower than that. All right, so these overall, these are the countries around the world that have the lowest GDP per capita. So these countries have the poorest people based on their population. You guys can see that most of those countries right there are in Africa. And that's because, you know, they don't have the infrastructure, so they don't have roads and highways to be able to get their products out to markets to be able to sell them. You know, they don't have roads. They don't have planes and trains and big, heavy 18-wheelers. So they can't produce a lot of stuff. Also, a lot of Africa is still just natural land. A lot of desert, a lot of forest. Yeah, they have a lot of resources, but they just can't get them out to people. And then plus a lot of their governments are corrupt. And then you got Afghanistan. You know, there's war going on in Afghanistan. You're not going to have production, you know, if the manufacturing plants are getting blown up. And plus the government in Afghanistan is corrupt as well. So they take all the money from the people. Now, the richest countries in the world based on population. Okay, so these are the countries that are producing the most per person. Luxembourg, Switzerland, Norway, Macau, which is China, a very small part of China, Ireland, Qatar, Iceland. You guys see that the United States is down that list. So why is GDP per capita important? It just measures the average wealth of each citizen in a country. So if you go to a country and you see that, the average house is nice, the average car is decent, people, look like they're okay, then they're a production making country. They're producing stuff. They're making money. Whereas if you go to a country and people were living in like 10 shacks with 4 pieces of tin just stacked beside each other with a tin roof and one room, bathroom as a hole dug in the ground with a little shack around it, and it's like a community outhouse. You guys can tell that those countries are not producing a lot. The families are just kind of fending for themselves. They're not going to work per se every day for a company. So this is just an overview of what we've covered. GDP is the same thing as production. If we're producing stuff, we have jobs. If we have jobs, we're making money, and the companies are making money. So when the companies are in business to make a profit, and then the more money a company makes, if they can keep the same quality, they'll offer their jobs overseas because people in other countries don't make as much money per hour. So a company in Nike, like a Nike plant, here in the United States, they'd have to pay each worker at least $7.25 an hour. For a manufacturing plant in China, each employee only makes $1.50 an hour to produce the same shoe. So why not open up their plant in China? Smart business decisions, bad for Americans because the shoes still cost $200. So, in effect, this just increases the competition for our jobs. We have to work harder and we have to produce better results and better quality. Productivity just means the amount or the value of goods that are being produced divided by whatever we're using to make the product itself. So if I've asked the class to make pizzas, make as many pizzas as you can in an hour. And let's say the class makes 30 pizzas. I take 30 and I divide that by 1 hour. So that's all we do. So productivity is just output divided by input. I gave you guys a specific example, dividing the number of customers served. So however many customers are going through the line at drive-through, divided by the number of hours that the employees are working. So you just take number of employees served, divided by the number of hours your employees are working, divide those two, and that will give you the number of customers that are being served every hour. This was just for practice. You'll see this on your test. The productivity of an individual worker can be measured by dividing the dollar totals of sales by the number of salespeople who made the sales, dividing the total number of products produced by the number of production steps, dividing the dollar totals of sales by the cost of making all those sales, and then dividing the number of customers served by the number of hours an employee worked. So that would be an example of this question on a test. So just output is divided by input. The correct answer is D. Output would be customer served. Input would be your hours. Here's an example with math. We're going to do this together. So you've got 3 employees and they each work 35 hours. So you could say 35 plus 35 plus 35. It would take you longer. Or you can just say 35 times 3. That gives you 105. But remember, the hours, that's what they're putting into making 9,765 items. So the 105 goes on the bottom. So your output is your 9,765. Forgive my writing. Divided by 105. and when you put that into the calculator, you get 93. So these employees are producing 93 products per hour. Okay, we're going to do another one. We've got 5 high school students. Each work 25 hours a week and produce 10,000 pizzas. So your pizzas, that's what they're making. So your 10,000 will go on top. And then each student is working each student is working 25 hours. You've got 5 kids. It's just 5 times 25 equals 125. So when you divide 10,000 by 125, divided by 125, that gives you 80. So 5 students make 80 pizzas per hour. And that's what we covered today. I will make sure that I go into your new activity, which is in Canvas. Today's assignment, January 13th through the 15th. You're going to design a choropleth map based on GDP per capita. You're going to use this website that I gave you. And over here on the right, you've got your countries. Sort them by GDP per capita. And you're going to use the top 5. Okay, so Luxembourg, Ireland, Switzerland, Norway, United States. And the bottom 5 with data. So Burundi, South Sudan, Malawi, Mozambique, Sierra Leone. So those are the 10 countries that you're going to use. You can draw your map. You can go and copy and paste a picture of a blank map to a Google slide. You can use a paint program. I don't care how you design your map, but I want 10 countries labeled, 5 of the highest producing countries in the world, and 5 of the lowest producing countries in the world. So this is going to be your before map. This is going to be your after with your cute little additions, your cool colors, have your legend. Down here, labeling, like red is going to be Malawi, green can be Burundi, etc. Label your countries correctly. And then also make sure that you include that country's actual GDP per capita. So like Mozambique, each person in Mozambique makes $430 a year. That's pitiful. $430 a year. Very poor. Whereas if you've got a country like Luxembourg, each person is making $125,000 a year. And you see the United States is up there, so we're doing okay based on our population and the size of our country. To find your countries, just type in, where is Malawi on global map, and then just find a picture, and then you can label your map. And I do have a rubric for you, so you know exactly how I'm grading you. After that, you can be sure that you do your exit ticket for today, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.